Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Sunday to everybody. How's everybody doing? Hope you guys are all well, my brothers. We're all in it together. If you guys are ready for another Sunday edition of Addicted to Gear, you're in the right place. We're going to be talking about a lot of interesting things this week. Let me know if you can hear me okay and you can see me all right. Just the usual checks before we jump right in to the meat and potatoes of this show. Hope everybody's doing well. I know that it's been a crazy week for me. Just running around. We're doing some renovations and whatnot. So it's going to be crazy around here for a little while. But hopefully I'll still be able to put out some interesting content in the meantime. Trickle out a few new goodies that I have in store for you guys. I hope you've been watching the other videos that I've been putting out on the channel on a regular basis. And last week we had a show that was an evening show. I think some of you were not available, but that's all good. I totally understand, but I'm giving people a chance to tune in on the channel. You know, just people that are in other parts of the world that can't necessarily tune in on Sunday morning. We want to give them an equal opportunity to tune in and get familiar with the channel. And then, of course, if they're available Sunday mornings, that's our usual time slot. So we're back in the morning time slot today as per usual. So today, if I'm calculating the shows correctly, I think it's live show number 226. And if you guys don't already know, we already have probably over 700 videos on the channel of various products, reviews, playing samples, all of that good stuff. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, I welcome you to just go into the video archive on Addicted to Gear and take a look at that. If you guys want to chat today and you're new, please subscribe. You're going to have to subscribe to the channel to be able to chat. I say that all the time. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask. The goal of this show is really to answer your questions as much as possible. So I'll throw in some interesting tidbits on new products, latest news, and all that kind of stuff. But I really do appreciate the the opportunity to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, you can put a question mark ahead of your question so I can see that clearly as I'm scrolling down. I see that DMAC already has a question here, so I'll jump right in and answer his. He says, hi, Tony. He says, saw some news reports about how the French language laws may destroy the guitar and music stores in Quebec. Sounds like the saying the operation was a success, but the patient died. So I don't know what you mean by that. I haven't really read the reports of what they're saying, but it does sound like it's on par with what the government likes to do here. They're very good at putting the stick in the wheels, so to speak. Instead of helping the city, province grow and become a better place, they're slowly making it a worse place. So I don't know what the story is exactly, but I don't necessarily want to focus on that because it just gets me upset when I hear things like that. So I prefer to focus on more positive aspects. So basically, I think there's another question here. SB says, can we start with this White Ibanez AZ clone? So what's the cutie? So here you go. This is a surprise. I can't actually tell you what it is yet. But for those of you that are, you got keen eyes like SB, he jumped right on it and he pretty much identified it as an AZ clone. This guitar, I'm going to be reviewing it for you guys. You can just take a look at it in the back here. It's a very sweet looking guitar. And I can't really tell you much about it yet, except that it's coming out soon. Going to be out maybe in a few days. And it's probably one of my new favorite budget guitars. And that's the cool thing. It is a budget guitar, guys. It's got a really nice features, and I'm going to be putting out a video probably towards the middle or end of this week where I'm going to be talking about this guitar. And you guys are going to be probably quite pleased by the features and the price. So stay tuned for that. I don't think there's enough budget guitars out there that, you know, scratch the itch. I think that there's a lot of companies making very nice guitars, including Ibanez. The AZs are nice, but they're very expensive. So if I can find a guitar that is going to give you sort of all the bells and whistles and play well without necessarily breaking the bank, I want you guys to know. So this is coming up, all right? So let's say good morning to the people that are here today, since a lot of you are up nice and early. I'll start from the bottom. Cool Tunes Made Easy. Welcome, dude. Actually, he's got a question, so I might as well answer the question at the same time. He says, tips on soldering. I am trying to install a new output input jack on my Gretsch. Kept getting cold soldering. Any tips? Frustrating thing to do it myself also. Okay, yeah, I can give you some tips for sure, dude. Soldering is not that difficult as long as you have a few main tips. First of all, you have to use the right solder. A lot of this, like, you can't use wrong solder. Don't cheap out on the solder. I know sometimes it's expensive for a small roll, but if you get soldering wire, solder basically, that has a core that's filled with what do they call that, rosin, I think it's called, I'm not even sure, but basically it'll melt quicker, and you have to make sure your soldering iron is hot enough. So you don't want to go too low on the heat, but obviously you don't want to burn the crap out of it either. If you're using like a 40-watt soldering iron, you won't get cold soldering joints, but you have to make sure you don't burn. You got to be very fast. Also, if you use the flux, I believe that's what it's called, not what did I say before, rosin? No, rosin is for violins. Flux is what I'm talking about. You can get a little bottle of flux, which is basically just a liquid that you put on the components that you're trying to solder, and it basically makes the solder flow really nice, and you'll get nice shiny solder joints and you won't have any issues. So that's some of the tips. So let's say good morning to the rest of the guys and keep the questions coming. So Ian's Guitar Shack is here. Good morning, Ian. Nice picture of you and your little cat. Shane is here. Today I was playing active pups only. How many active guitars do you have, Tony? None. I don't have any. Shane, I don't, I've never really caught the bug for active pickups. The only active pickups I have are actually on a bass. No guitars. But I hear that a lot of people do like them. Some of them are nice. They're more quiet. But I'm old school. And I'm not really crazy about having to swap batteries and guitars and stuff like that, you know. So I just go straight to the classic pickups. The old EMGs were interesting, and I think a lot of David Gilmour fans enjoy the EMG style pickups that were popular back in the day. Paul says, good morning, Paul. Paul says use lead solder. It's still available. It probably is. It's probably still the good stuff, but it's not good for your health. So if you're going to be doing that, make sure you're venting, you're not huffing the stuff as you're putting it in as much as possible. So let's see. Presley's here. Good morning, Presley. What's happening, dude? Any new projects on the workbench at your place? J. Paul is here as well. Good morning, J. Paul. He says, found a UK-made V30 for my 1x12. I'm on a mission to have a green back and a red back in the same 2x12 and the V30 in the 1x12. See what happens and buy amp the Gen 3 and Mark II. A lot of people do go for the vintage 30s. They're quite popular. I think a lot of people do like them. Vintage 30 and greenbacks usually I would say, are probably the most popular. But it's very tricky when you're mixing speakers. They don't all play well together. I've noticed anyways, at least in my cabinets where I have more than one and I mix them up. So it's kind of trial by fire. You got to try and find the right combination. V30s are cool. I find they're a little nasally sounding. They're a little like they sound a little like this, you know. So it depends what kind of sound you're going for. A lot of great choices out there for speakers, by the way. Time Surfing Alien, good morning. Cushman is here. My Logify. Hello, Tony. Did you hear about Kemper's new 300 USD upgrade that's for player? A lot of people were disappointed. I didn't see it. I don't really follow the Kemper news all that much, but I heard an announcement that they were releasing something interesting. So kind of like a slimmed down version, if I'm not mistaken. I got to do a little bit more research on that to see what's going on. There's a lot of companies out there like Kemper, Tonex, and whatnot that are releasing new products or updates to their existing product line. So there's a lot of stuff happening out there. It's hard to keep track of everything, but I try and at least, you know, note down some of the notable big news items that are making headlines. Jean-Pierre, hey, how's it going? Jean-Pierre says, did I hear you right, Tony? Another new guitar? Like I said, JP, I'm going to be slimming down. And according to the picture that you sent me, that's going to be like, I'm going to try and have only that many guitars in the new year. It's an inside joke, folks. JP and I have an ongoing conversation through social media, and we send each other some interesting things from time to time. So Stephen is here. Stephen, how are you doing? Jean, Nella. Nella says, don't let the part move until the solder sets. Yeah, that's another good tip. And also, if you're trying to hold the item down with something, be careful that you don't use something too thick. Like sometimes people will use a needle nose plier or something like that, which is okay. But if you're using something that is too dense to hold your part, it acts as a heat sink and it makes the heat dissipate from your part, so it doesn't get hot enough. But once you get it and you get into the groove, you'll see it'll start to work out a lot better. Eddie says, good morning, boys. Sorry for the lateness. No worries, Eddie. Ian says creambacks. Go with creambacks. I have a creamback here. I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest, with the creambacks, because I don't know, a lot of people hype them up to be like amazing. They're okay, but I find that compared to, again, my 65s, Celestion 65s, I feel I like the 65s better than the greenbacks, especially when you start driving them heavy. Let's see here. JL Trem just got here. Are you holding a new guitar, Tony? Indeed, it is a new guitar. It's a secret. I'm not telling you guys what it is. You guys can guess. You can try and guess what it is. It's a new guitar. All I'm telling you is, for right now, is that it's a budget guitar. It's a budget-friendly guitar. It's not expensive, but it's got some nice features, and I'm going to be reviewing this guitar later this week. So we'll listen to it in a little bit here. So Dan is here, Wayne is here, Cushman, Presley, Mississippi Blues has a question. So he says, hi Tony, been playing the Nano Cortex Great pedal. Is this something you might be reviewing? I don't have one. I don't have one yet. I'd like to have one. I probably will at some point if I can get my hands on one. Definitely would like to see what it offers in terms of tonality and flexibility. See if it's really worth it. How do you like it so far? Is this your first pedal of that type, Mississippi Blues? Let us know what you like about it, and maybe if there's some shortcomings that you found while using it, we would like to know that. Cool Tune says, Tony, are the 1265M the same as the 1265s? I think they have different versions. I'm not sure if they're the same. I think there's a 1265M, 1265H, I think. Let me see here. Man, they've gotten expensive, over time. They're like, Stumac is selling them now for $229 for one speaker. Very expensive. I guess they're the same. Maybe they changed the way they're naming them. Because I know they were making them in England, then they made them in China. Now I don't know if they're making them. I think they're making them in England again. So maybe that's the difference in terms of how they're naming them. But you know what? I don't think they're the same, actually. There's a good video on YouTube. I can actually send it to you, or I could put the link. I think the M's are considered the creambacks, because there's a video on YouTube where they actually review them. They actually play them. Here, let me see if I can share the link here. And he actually goes in and describes what the difference is between the 65 and the 12M65. See, he says Celestion 1265s and M creambacks, which are G12M65s, are both great speakers on their own right with confusingly similar names. We know they share the same M magnet, most commonly used on the greenback, and as a replacement speaker are often used in relatively similar situations, but there's a difference in how they sound. So in this video we play both. So I'll give you the link. I'll put the link in the channel here. Let me just copy and paste that. I don't know if you guys could you guys see the links right away when I share them? I think you can, right? Yeah, I think you can. Whoop. So yeah, they're not the same. Mine is not the M, it's a 65. Just to clarify. And I think now that they're being made back in the UK, if I'm correct, those are the ones you want. I don't think the ones in China were exactly the same. They did sound slightly different. So guys, before we jump into more interesting topics, please give me a thumbs up if you don't mind, before we forget. And once again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We want to grow the channel, and you know, this is one way that we do it, through sharing of information here as a group. So Dan Smith says Creamback and V30s for me. Have paired V30s with greenbacks as well in a 4x12 with greenbacks on top. I don't know if it makes a big difference whether or not you put the greenbacks on the top of a 4x12 or on the bottom. I guess you just hear it better if it's on the top. My cabinet that I have is slanted. It's got a slanted front. So if you're standing in front of it, you'll definitely hear the top speakers way more than if you put them on the bottom. Because if you put them on the bottom, it's basically going towards your knees. If you're sitting in front of the cabinet, you're getting blasted right in the face. So you might want to put the speakers that are less shrill, you know, on the top. I don't know. Thanks for the thumbs up, Nella. I appreciate that. Mark's gas station just popped in. Good morning, Mark. How are you doing? So let me just scroll back. I don't know if there was any questions at the very beginning. Jack was here as well. Good morning, Jack. Mark is here as well. Good morning, Mark. SB says Jet guitars are cool. Their Strat line is nice. It's not a jet guitar that I'm holding. Wayne is here. Hey Wayne, how you doing, man? Hope you're hanging in there, buddy. SB says, congratulations from Mark for the new piece of gear. Hi all. Which piece of gear are we talking about? Are we talking about what you mentioned last week, Mark, or was it something else that I missed? I don't know. There's so many things, right? People buy and sell stuff here all the time. Mark says, sup guys, working today, 3-hour gig last night, 2-hour gig Friday night, but hey, at least I got to use the new Soulfire. Okay, yeah, that's what we all wanted to know, was whether or not you got an opportunity to kick the tires on the SR1. How does it holding up there, Mark? So far, so good? Are you satisfied? Everything you expected or more? Hopefully more than you expected. Eddie Van Halen died on this very day 4 years ago, says JP. Oh man, that was a sad day, man. I remember that day so clearly. In October. I didn't remember it was October though. Yeah, it choked me up when I heard about Eddie Van Halen passing away, man. It was like hit me so hard. I didn't realize that it would hit me that hard. But, you know, Eddie's been there my entire life, since I was a teenager. And, you know, for me, he was bigger than life. And to hear that he passed away like that, it was just, so heart-wrenching. Was a hard one. Was a hard one. So we should use this Sunday show to commemorate Eddie. What do you guys say? Anybody here met Eddie? Anybody here had an opportunity to meet him in person, or, you know, maybe get an autograph, speak to him, or anything like that? I didn't, unfortunately, never met. He was one of my idols, for sure. One of my rock star idols of all time. Would have loved to have a chit chat with him, but never had the opportunity. Saw Van Halen a few times. Always very cool show. But never met him, unfortunately. And still no tribute concert, says Dan. Absolutely right, man. That's not right. I think really the only person stopping the tribute concert is his brother. I think that's what I hear. You know, I don't have all the details, but it seems like he's not ready, or he doesn't want to do it, or I don't know. I don't know what the details are on that. It's too bad. It's really too bad. Ian says, I wish I had my PV Classic 50. It had the Eminence Governors in it, 2x12. I had a Classic PV2 at one point, Ian. I don't know. I don't remember if it had the Eminence. It could be. It was the black version. You know, they had the tweed cover. The tweed cover ones. Mine was black. It was still kind of like a tweed, but was black. And it was a great amplifier. I really liked that amplifier. I sold it way back though. Never really went back to PV after that though. That was a really nice amplifier. So of course Paul is offering some advice in terms of the pedal of the week. Dolamo D4 distortion. Chug pedal. Virtually a Fortin NATAS amp in a box, $25. USD from Temu. Any of you guys purchased from Temu before? There's a lot of options in terms of, you know, websites that will allow you to buy stuff from China. I haven't really purchased all that much from Temu. Microphone's in the way here. I kind of figured out what was making the noise last week when I was trying to Like I'm still getting a little bit of noise here, but this is mostly just from the amplifier being cranked so loud. But last week I was getting some weird noises coming through, and it was just I didn't have my settings on my DAW right, so kind of figured it out. Shane says, what do you think of the triple Eddie paint job picture I sent you? New project idea. It's interesting for sure. I like it, but again, I'm into like things that are a little bit off the wall. I think you actually butt dialed me, Shane, when you sent that over, because I got a phone call while I was looking at your picture. And then I said hello, hello, and nobody answered. So you probably just hit the wrong button. Gene says no Temu, no AliExpress, no DH Gate either. Gene, I guess. You got to be careful when you order stuff. I've ordered a couple of things, small items off of these websites. I've always received them. I haven't had an issue, so I guess so far so good. But there's always a first time. Shane said, yeah, he butt dialed me. No worries, no worries. It happens, man. Farid said, saw Van Halen support Bon Jovi at the Wembley Stadium in the 90s. Amazing. Well, they probably were. Were they in their prime in the 90s? I think they were. It's, you know, they were younger. They were younger back then, but they were still partying pretty hard. So I don't know if that was their prime or not, or if they kind of got better later on as they abused the substances a little bit less. Not really sure. Yesterday, I went to see a really cool show, guys. I wanted to share this with you guys. They're doing a local thing here where they call it's sort of like a candlelight classical show that is held in a beautiful church, an old, huge, beautiful church, and they play modern music but in a classical format. They basically, you know, just interpret the music in a classical format. And yesterday was a show, they were playing a whole bunch of Queen songs, and it was beautiful. It was really, really nice. Dark church, just lit by candles everywhere. And it's amazing what a great job they did. They were able to play many of the hits. And, you know, I didn't think they'd be able to pull off certain songs. Like they played We Are the Champions and Bohemian Rhapsody and Fat Bottom Girls, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, all these songs that you wouldn't necessarily think would be able to be pulled off well in a classical music format. But it was really good. I really liked it. And I highly recommend you guys go check it out. It was about an hour. Wasn't very long. And I'd go see another version. Like apparently they do Queen, they do a bunch of other shows where they do the best of the 90s music or whatever that is. Like they even gave us a little teaser. They even played a Nirvana song, Teen Spirit, I think it was. So, you know, go figure. You can do pretty much anything with classical music. It was very nice. If any of you do have the opportunity to go check it out, or if you're local, I don't know if they have these kind of things in your area, but something that you can go take a look and enjoy. I thought it was perfect. It was really nice. So let's talk about some latest news in terms of what's going on in the world of music. First of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that Pink Floyd, they basically sealed the deal. They're selling their catalog. 400 million euros. I think it's euros. It could be pounds. So basically, Sony purchased their catalog. That's a pretty big deal. 400 million big ones. So I guess, you know, Dave and the boys don't have to worry about anything for the next little while. We've already seen other bands like Queen do the same. Queen parted with their works for $1 billion. $1 billion. So I feel like Pink Floyd got shortchanged a little bit. So the deal says that they can still make money from live performances. So I think what 400 million in US dollars is what, like $600 million, something around that. So seems like there's still quite a demand. And I guess the music business, the companies have the money, have the scratch. If they're willing to, you know, pay $500 million for the catalog, it means they're still making decent scratch. That's for sure. So yeah, I think they're gonna be happy. I think they're probably celebrating. Let's see here. Paul says he ordered about 100+ things from AliExpress. Maybe 2 or 3 lost, but I got a refund or another sent only months later. The lost ones showed up. So basically, you got a 2 for 1. As long as you're not spending too much money. You know, like if you're buying a big ticket item, I'd be a little bit careful. But if they're you know, $10, $15 items, worst comes to worst. It's no big deal, right? How old is Gilmore? OU812 says he's 78. 78. He's still going strong. I think he's rehearsing right now, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's rehearsing for another show. So, and the clip I saw, I think they were playing Shine On You Crazy Diamond or something like that. So I guess he's playing some Pink Floyd songs. Yeah, Shane, I heard that rumor. I don't know if it's true or not. The rumor I heard, though, was that they were offered, I think Robert Plant was offered 500 million or something to go on tour again, to do another tour or something. And he said, nah. He said, I'm good. Good on him, you know. It's good to see that he's not like just grabbing money just for the sake of grabbing money. There's nothing worse than seeing your idol or one of your all-time favorite musicians on stage and just going through the motions and not necessarily putting his heart and soul in it. And, you know, you feel like you're getting ripped off if that happens. Farid says he's going to see David Gilmour this coming Friday. Can't wait. Where is he playing? Where are you seeing him? Interesting. Yeah, I'd like to see him too. I think that for me it's a mix between wanting to see him because probably won't get an opportunity to see him ever again. You know, it's getting more and more rare to see them play. And at the same time, I don't really want to see him because I feel like if I do see him and it's not up to snuff, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm weird that way. Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to mention to you guys is that apparently Steve Vai, his entire guitar collection, and he probably has 1 or 2 more guitars than I do, is going to be documented in an epic book, apparently. And it's going to basically go through all of his guitars, present and past. I think it's going to be called Wire in Wood. And apparently it took like 5 years to finish. So it's going to be sort of like the official library or reference book on Steve Vai's guitars. If you're into Steve Vai and you like his guitars, he's got a lot. Apparently there's more than 1,000 pages in the book. And if I'm not mistaken, the book is not going to be inexpensive. It's going to be rather expensive. They say that the deluxe edition is on pre-order right now. Special price, $699. Ooh, man. Limited to 500 copies, each signed and numbered by Vai himself, and with a larger A3 sized format. So you're, for the $600, actually $700, you're getting a signed copy. If you want to get the standard edition of the book, it's $360. It's pretty expensive, man. Why does it cost so much? I'll just wait till it gets on the liquidation rack at my local bookstore, where you can get them for like $4.99, $5. Crazy stuff, man. That's I don't know how many people are going to be willing to spend that kind of money on a book. So Rick, hey Rick, how are you? Rick Bonville says, building another Frankenstrat. So far, lace sensor, red, blue, and red dually. Billy Corrigan neck. Probably go Geiger for the hardware. I never tried the Geiger hardware myself, Rick. I've seen them. They look good. But I don't have first-hand information on how well they work. So if you do put that in, let me know. It's always good to have a first-hand reference. So when you say you're building another Frankenstrat, how many do you already have? And it's interesting that you've decided to go with the lace sensor. Rexomatic says, good morning. Good morning to you. How's it going, Rex? Contemplating getting some of my studio buddies together to see the new Tom Petty film coming out in a couple weeks. Good idea. I should do that with my buddies too, actually. That's always fun to be able to get together with music buddies and go watch movies that are dedicated to a band, like, or something like It Might Get Loud, or some kind of documentary. That's pretty cool. It's coming out soon. I don't know when it's supposed to be released, Rex. Do you know? Nella, I saw that exact thing. Frankie Valli, poor guy, man. They're like basically shoving him in front of the stage. The guy could hardly stand up. It looks like he doesn't even know where he is, and he's just like mumbling stuff in the mic, and all the background musicians are doing the heavy lifting, kind of camouflaging the fact that he can't sing anymore. And a total money grab just to be able to see this poor guy. It's quite discouraging when you watch this on YouTube. There's a lot of videos, you could just Google it later on. But yeah, it's sad, man. Let the poor guy be. Marcel says the Geiger locking tuners are very good, he says. And Gene says he likes some of the Geiger products as well. Good to know. Awesome. It's good to see that you guys are still building projects. I still am reserving my project for the Jimmy Page Dragon Telecaster for this winter. This is going to be my winter safety project. I call it the safety project because winter's terrible for me. I go into like deep, I wouldn't call it depression mode, but seasonal, what do they do call it seasonal depression, I guess. So I usually don't like winter at all. So it's just like hibernation mode for me. So I like to save one or two projects for winter so I can actually work on stuff and make time pass in those cold, dark winter days that are coming. And we're already starting to see the temperatures drop, so it won't be long, unfortunately. DMAX says, now with some hindsight, how's the Fender Tone Master Pro doing in the modular gear space? Holding its own? I've seen prices drop a bit lately. I think my opinion on that kind of stuff is that when you're buying, Fender gear, multi-effects units, Boss gear, multi-effects units, there's still, I would say, more leaning more in the consumer space, not necessarily the pro space. I think like the Kempers and the Core Cortex and the Fractals are more like a step above. They tend to, not that they're getting bad or anything like that, but they kind of fade really fast. So there's an initial buzz, and then a lot of hype, a lot of buzz on social media and whatnot, and then eventually they kind of just die away. People forget about them, and don't forget, people do get distracted with the next best shiny thing. So that's what I usually see. So I'm not surprised that the prices will go down, and it's always a good opportunity to grab it if you want to save some money at that stage. Mark says Jimmy Page's anthology looks great. I don't know. I didn't know he was such a fashion nerd. There's as much items of clothing as there is gear in the book. Clothing as far back as the Yardbird days. Well, back in the day when the Yardbirds were popular, clothing, I mean, those guys were pretty spiffied up. They had the little, what do you call the little furly things there? I remember Jimmy Page using that, wearing that with a nice jacket, blazer on, and leather high heel, not high heel, but leather high booties. Sure, that stuff wasn't cheap back in the day in terms of, getting your hands on good quality clothing. So yeah, I would say that they probably were into fashion. I mean, you're a musician. Back in the day, you had to look spiffy. A lot of the bands back there, were sporting matching blazers and doing the whole matching bit. Ian's Guitar Shack says, you are in Canada. Yes, I am. At least when I checked last. So Rex says that the Tom Petty film is scheduled for the 17th of October. Limited release. I hope it's going to eventually find its way on Netflix or, Amazon or one of the other streaming platforms. So Cool Tunes wants to know what I'm using my Friedman head with the Egnator. What speakers are they? Celestion Elites. So right now it is going through the 1x12 here. And I can tell you what it is. I forget myself. I have it written on the side of my cabinets because sometimes I'll swap speakers and then time will go by and I'll forget what's in there. And I don't want to open them up because these are closed back cabinets. So let me see. But the thing is, what you're hearing right now is not necessarily the speaker. It's because it's going through the aux here. And the aux is actually playing the equivalent of a 65, so kind of like what I have in my Marshall. So you're not actually hearing the speaker that's inside that cabinet. But let me tell you, I can tell you what it is. Give me a sec. All right, so I confirmed that the speaker in the Egnator is a Celestion A-type speaker. That's what I have in that one. Have I tried stainless steel strings to brighten a guitar's tone? I haven't tried stainless steel strings. No, I have a guitar with stainless steel frets, but it doesn't necessarily brighten the tone. But I haven't tried stainless steel strings yet. No, have you? Do you find that it really does brighten things up? I haven't tried it. I usually stick to my Ernie Ball strings. That's what I usually like to use on my guitars. I don't really deviate that much. I don't necessarily like to spend too much on strings. I know like there's people, some people like the coated elixir strings, and I don't like spending $20 on strings. I find like I have a lot of guitars, so if I have to spend $20 on every pack of strings that I install on all my guitars, it's going to cost me a freaking fortune. So I prefer to just stick with, the regular $8 to $10 versions of strings that I'm familiar with, and it does the job for me. I don't need more than that. Casey says he can't watch any artist or band documentaries with his guitar buddy because he always tells me all of the information that's coming up in the video. I find that annoying. If I'm watching something, please don't talk to me while I'm watching. That becomes really annoying. Zach says he's like 3 hours away from me. Where are you located, Zach? Shane says buy the NYXLs and leave them on for 2 months. He says that's his advice to everybody here. I think everybody has their own favorite guitar strings, and usually, it's like finding your favorite type of cigarettes. Once you find the ones you like, you don't usually deviate all that much. One other thing I wanted to bring up to you guys is that Harley Benton is going to be releasing some new guitars. And I don't know if you guys are still into Harley Benton. I know that they're well liked. A lot of people were buying Harley Benton guitars, and they seem to be pumping a lot of new things onto the market. But last year in Germany, they had the Guitar Summit, and they did preview a few electric guitars that were going to be coming. And I think one of the interesting things is that they're going to be releasing relic versions of guitars and basses, and they're going to be featuring nitrocellulose for those models. And I'm not surprised they're using nitrocellulose because that's the easiest way to relic guitars. You can't relic poly. So at least if you're getting a relic version of those guitars that it is using nitro. I don't know how much they're going to cost yet. They could be cool. There's already some videos out on YouTube on that if you're looking to take a look. Might be interesting if the price is right, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like they've announced the price yet. They also have another really cool guitar that I did spot. It's a red, they call it the ST80. I guess ST for Strat, 80 for 1980. And it's basically like a 80s one pickup, kind of like a knockoff of a Kramer Beretta or a Kramer Pacer. It's got a flame maple neck, stainless steel frets, compound radius fretboard, Floyd Rose on it. It's got the whole 9 yards. Looked cool. I like it, just by what I see. But again, it depends on the cost. I have a feeling these are going to be slightly more expensive. So depending on what they're going to be charging, it could be great or it could be a bust. I'm going to have to take a look and give you more information as time goes on here, and we get a little bit more information on it. Gear Junkie 35 says Wisconsin checking in. Welcome, Gear Junkie. And Zach says he's in Ontario. Ah, my neighbor. I should have moved to Ontario. Let's not get into that. Let's not get into the why. But if some, if any of you that live here understand what's going on, you probably understand why I'm saying that. Anyway, Ian says I own one Harley Benton SC Custom with Floyd Rose 1000. The 1000 series of Floyd Roses are not bad. I'm still not convinced that I want to go back to Floyd Rose guitars. They're a little bit finicky, a little bit too much. Alex says, Tony, I heard there was an earthquake in Ontario. Are you in Ontario? I'm not. I'm not in Ontario, no. I'm in Quebec. Yeah. I didn't hear about the earthquake. When did this happen? Was that like last night or something? We had an earthquake here about a week ago. Week and a half, 2 weeks. I'm losing track of time. My knees hurt says, I feel like you can relic anything with a few pieces of sandpaper. Not true. You can wreck stuff with a few pieces of sandpaper. But if you want to do a good relicking job, it really depends on what kind of finish you have on your guitar first. Cushman likes the ST80. I think it's going to be a good seller. Cushman, do you know how much they're selling the ST80 for? Can anybody look it up for me, please? The PRS clone, I've actually reviewed that a long time ago. It's on my channel. I have actually reviewed the PRS clone. It was pretty good. A friend of mine bought it. I didn't buy it. He lent it to me just to review it. And yeah, if you go on my channel, you'll see it. Presley says, I keep a pack of NYXL wrappers up in the sleeve of my short sleeve shirt. Why do you do that? Do you use that as like a pen protector or something like that? Or is it a fashion statement you're trying to make, Presley? What's going on? So Rick says, I'm only 2,275 kilometers from you. 24 hours if you don't stop driving. Well, if you're in the neighborhood, stop by for a coffee or a beer or something. Shane says, do you have the same gauges on all your guitars, Tony? For the most part, yes. I'll experiment with different gauges from time to time, but I won't necessarily swap gauges throughout the entire collection. I won't do that. Shane says there's no such thing as a good relic job. Shane, I say nay nay to that. I've seen a lot of very bad relic jobs. People making a lot of money at relicking. Just saying. Presley says it's all about fashion. 50s fashion, he says. I haven't resorted to the flip-flops with the long socks yet and the short pants. But as I'm getting older, I'm sure it'll come around. Shane says he's looking at a lefty Tokai PRS copy. Never played a Tokai PRS type. I have never played one. Nope. I haven't. I know the Tokais are good. Just check where they're made. The lower end stuff seems to be made in Korea. And there's actually knockoffs of Tokai guitars popping up too. So be careful on that. I'd stay away from anything made in in Korea. If you see something that's made in China, that's a red flag. Just stick to the Japanese versions and you should be fine. Heck, Shane, you're in Japan anyway, so you should be able to find Tokais all over the place. Steven says, you want a good relic job, play the piss out of your guitar and don't clean it. Yeah, but you know, Steven, if you're doing that, especially on the new guitars with poly finishes, you're never gonna relic those things. You're trying to wear out plastic. It's not gonna work. If it's a nitro finish, yes, you will. And that is honestly the best way to do it. Just play the heck out of your guitar, and you'll be able to relic it relatively quickly, I would say. So Paul says, Tony, Kramer Beretta special with Floyd, $230 USD factory sale. Where's this, Paul? Where is this? I'd like to check that out. I don't know if I'd buy another Kramer Berettas because I already have two. And honestly, I actually installed the Vega Trem on both of my Kramer Beretta specials, so I don't really need a Floyd on one of them. Cool Tune says, Tony, what's the amp you were talking about last live show? PRS? I talked about a couple of amps. We did talk about the new PRS amp, yes. Because PRS did release a new amplifier. It's brand new. I was also talking about my Brunetti Pleximan that I was playing, played at the last rehearsal, which I was raving about. Dan wants to know if I play other instruments. Well, actually, I mean, I dabble. You know, guitar and bass. Like I think most guitar players will dabble on bass. I usually play bass if I want to put down some kind of an idea for a recording or something like that. I'll do the bass lines. I did actually play drums. Took lessons for like about 2 years and a half. So I can hold a beat on a drum kit. I dabble on, you know, keyboards too. Not very good at it though. If I had the opportunity to spend time learning another instrument, I'd probably learn keyboards, piano, something like that. Would love to be proficient on keyboards. Piano is probably the best instrument to learn if you want to compose. And it's a lot easier because it's all laid out there right in front of you. You know, it's all organized. You know, it's beautifully organized right there. It's not like guitar. When you're playing guitar, it's more abstract because the strings are not necessarily all doing the same thing. Whereas the piano, it's all there. Beautiful. Sharps, flats. You can see all the, you know, the sequence of notes that repeat. It's visually a lot easier. But then you got to split your mind in half and have the right, you know, the left hand doing the bass lines, the right hand doing the treble lines, and read it all together. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful instrument. I tried to get my kids into music and get them to learn something. I would love to get them to learn how to play piano or something like that, but no can do. The new generation is not patient enough to spend time learning. They just want to be learned. Oh man. Gene says, who were your drummer influences? Oh man, you know, for me it's always been John Bonham, mostly. I don't really have that many influences when it comes to drums. I just like good beats. I don't care who's playing them. But I don't have that many. I mean, I didn't necessarily play drums for that long. But of course, you know, I appreciate all the good drummers out there. My knees hurt says, I've been working on sight reading on guitar. Very low level. It's always good to be able to read. Unfortunately, I kind of let that drop. Originally, when I did take music lessons, that was the first step, was sight reading. Just being able to sight read music. We spent a lot of time doing that. It was boring for me at the time. But the teacher that I had was very adamant about, you got to learn how to sight read. You got to learn all the scales. You got to learn, you know, all the theory first, and then we jump into playing. So, you know, for somebody who just wants to rock, especially if you're a young teenager with hormones, you know, pumping through your body at that stage, the last thing you want to do is spend time, you know, learning scales and how to sight read. You want to pick up the chicks. One of the features this guitar has, by the way, is it has coil splitting. So let's say I'm playing the humbucker and I split it. That's split. I don't know if you can hear the difference, but sounds more like a Strat pickup. I'm getting distracted. Sorry guys. Getting distracted by shiny things again. Rick says, Tony, what other media platforms are you using? None. Rick, I'm only on YouTube. I don't want to go ballistic and use too many platforms, and you know, I like doing the stuff that I'm doing the way I'm doing it. I don't want to get too carried away. Hey Charles, what's happening? So Vox says the Strat is identifying as greeny today, he says. I think, excuse me, I forgot to bring water. I'm getting all dried up here, parched. Have you guys seen the other Harley Bentons that they're coming out with? We were talking about Harley Benton guitars earlier. The interesting thing is that they've announced that they're opening an official store, which it's gonna be serving the U.S. mostly. So I'm kind of still out of luck. But now they have an official store on Reverb, so you'll be able to buy, if you're looking at buying Harley Benton guitars, you can do it on Reverb, which is a good thing. Make it easier for the customer, I say. We need more choice. We need more options. I don't know if anybody out there has already tried buying anything from them off of Reverb. I don't usually deal on Reverb all that much because I like to deal face to face when it comes to buying instruments. But it's an option. If you're looking for options, it is an option. Any of you would consider buying the double cut custom? Have you seen this? It looks like the double neck SG, similar to what Jimmy Page used to use back in the day. So they have their version. It's not exactly the same. The shape of it is not exactly like an SG. For legal reasons, they can't do that. Would any of you consider buying one of those guitars? I don't know if it would be really practical. You would have to get a special case made for it. Probably very difficult to find one. I don't know if you'd want to lug one around. They're probably like a pain to lug. But they do have one if you're looking for a 12-string, 6-string option. Looks interesting. I'd like to, you know, maybe own one just for like giggles. I think they're selling for about 600 euros. Something along those lines. It might be interesting, but probably not that practical. That's the thing that stops me from buying certain guitars. Like, I would have liked to own a Dave Grohl model. Probably not now, since Dave is in the doghouse, with all his issues that he's having with his illegitimate child that he had with some woman. Maybe he's gonna go down a couple of notches on the totem pole of the good guys of rock. But the thing is, the Dave Grohl model is big. It's got a bigger headstock. It's a custom shape. It's gonna be hard to find a case that would fit that. I know Epiphone re-released those. You were able to buy those Chipson versions of those guitars for a long time for not that much money. I think the Epiphone versions actually cost more than you can get the Chipsons for, obviously. Vox says that the EDS 1275 is like $3,000. So yeah, I'd consider it. And last I checked, the Epiphone version was plywood, or so they said. $3,000, huh? I don't know if I'd ever want to really spend that kind of money on a guitar. It's got to be pretty special. But I never say never, because you don't know, man. If you come across a nice vintage guitar, collectible, around $3,000, that's not that much money for an older collectible version of a guitar. But a brand new off-the-shelf version, I would have to think long and hard about that. Let me ask you this. We did have a poll question today. And that kind of ties into what we were saying on our what we were asking on our poll question. So let's just jump to the poll. Do you guys know where the poll question is? It's in the community section of the Addicted to Gear page on YouTube. And the question was, do you find yourself mostly buying newly released gear or older gear that's been around a while? And the reason I asked this question is because I find, like, we do get inundated with a lot of interesting new stuff. There's a lot of companies vying for your attention and your buying dollar when it comes to putting out new products out there. So it seems like every day, or if you look at what's been released in a week, there's a lot of stuff, new guitars, effects, so many different things that are vying for a guitarist's hard-earned money that it's hard to keep up. So a lot of people will tend to gravitate to the new shiny things. Something gets released and automatically there's so much hype and people are like, yeah, I gotta buy that. I gotta buy that right now. And we don't necessarily think about it all that much. We might jump right into buying something and then regret it. So I'm just wondering, and I wanted to ask where you fit into the category. Like, are you a knee-jerk reaction type of guy that will just go out and buy something new just because it's new? Or do you prefer to just lay back a while, let the dust settle, hear what people say about stuff, think about it carefully, and then go in for the buy? Or maybe you guys opt to not buy anything at all. Just you're happy with what you already have and you just window shop. So far, through the votes that we already have, it seems like by quite a majority, 73% of you said, I prefer to think about purchases carefully and buy older gear. I think that's a smart way of doing it. I think that's a good way of making sure you don't necessarily regret stuff. Because you can go and buy a pedal a week. There's so many new pedals coming out, and then you're like, how many of you have purchased a pedal just to say like, it's okay, nothing great, and then you throw it in a box and forget about it and don't really play it, So that's a lot of cash that's just lying around that you can actually flip and put towards something that is actually going to get some serious playing time. So 73% of you said you prefer to wait. 24% of you said, I like shiny new stuff. Consider me an early adopter. I'm kind of on the border of those two. Like, I like to, if it's going to be an expensive purchase, I'll think about it. I'll read reviews. I'll try stuff first, kick the tires, make sure it's right for me, then I'll buy it. If it's something that's not that expensive and I'm willing to take a chance, I like the shiny new stuff too. You know, especially since I have a YouTube channel where I review gear. Most of the time people are interested in new stuff. They're not necessarily interested in the older stuff, you know. Case in point, I was just talking to myself the other day and I said, self, you know, I was looking at the deluxe reverb a while back. I already have a supersonic, Fender Supersonic 22, which is kind of in that deluxe reverb territory. And I was considering whether or not the Supersonic should stay, or perhaps I should go out and get a deluxe. And I ended up keeping the Supersonic because it did have a lot more flexibility to it. It had switchable settings via a foot switch, a fat mode. It had, you can turn on and turn off the reverb on it. It has an effects loop on it as well. It's got a drive channel, even though I don't really use a drive channel. Long story short, I decided to keep the Supersonic because I felt it offered more flexibility. Since I did that review on my channel, and you can still see that review where I played both side by side, I did upgrade the speaker on the Supersonic. I did change the speaker on it, and I think it even performs better now. Eventually, I should do another review on that. But long story short, I was looking at that, and at the same time, I was looking at the Brunetti Singleman. Now, the Brunetti Singleman is a really great sounding amplifier. If you guys haven't tried one yet, they're hard to try because they're made in Italy, but like the Brunetti Pleximan that I have, top-notch build quality and really great sound. And it's basically a deluxe reverb killer. That's what it is. But it does have some interesting things. It does have an effects loop on it that you can switch out of this of the circuit completely if you want to. It's got the reverb built in. It's got a mid knob where, you know, the deluxe reverbs usually don't have the mid knob. They have bass treble. That's it. It doesn't have a tremolo built in, but I don't really care about that. Anyways, I was considering, again, maybe flip-flopping and getting the Brunetti Singleman. But then I said to myself, I'm going to wait. And that kind of wave passed. So sometimes it is good to consider your purchases carefully before you pull the trigger. Just basically makes smart buying sense. Rob says, due to bills, I only buy lower budget quality items after long research and thought, which involves discovering something else I decide I don't want or need it. And I think that's a good thing. I like what I really like is finding something that sounds expensive and doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money. You know, like this guitar that I'm talking about or showing you guys here. This guitar, you know, would scratch the Ibanez itch. And I did actually play one of those Ibanez guitars way back. Expensive, $2,000. This one is not $2,000. Way, way cheaper. A lot cheaper. You'll be surprised. So, you know, for me, something like this would scratch the itch for the Ibanez. And for those of you who are latecomers, I'm not showing you what it is yet because I'm only going to talk about it or show you this later this week. All right, it's a little surprise I have in store for you guys. Eddie says, I just dropped $2,000 on a birthday gift for my wife. I was like, damn, that was money for a nice guitar. Eddie, I mentioned that last time we spoke. I do that all the time. I'm working on getting a bathroom done in our home, and yeah, it's going to be very expensive. So it's going to be, at the end of the day, it's going to be quite a few nice guitars and amps that I could have bought with that money. But you can't look at it that way, I guess. J. Paul says, I get quality entry-level guitars and mod the crap out of them. I like doing that too, J. Paul. Probably the best bang for the buck if you do that. You know what I mean? And that's probably what I'm going to do with this guitar too. You know, maybe change pickups. And I'm sure it'll be great. I remember that. Thornblaze says, old school Vox Tone Lab ST processor. I remember the Tone Labs. They're probably still floating around out there. Yeah. Hey, if it still does the trick, why not? You'd be surprised how good some of that older stuff sounds, even today. So J. Paul says, I waited 2 months to land on a UK-made V30, $118 delivered, 1 hour use, verified seller. Beautiful. So you just basically hunt for what you need and pull the trigger when you find it. That's the best thing, man. You got to act fast, though. Some of the good stuff goes really fast. If it doesn't go fast, there's a reason. If nobody grabs it after a while, you got to scratch your head and say, what's up? So Cushman's gassing for an American Strat. Well, American Strats are pretty common, so you can find a lot of them out there in the wild. You probably get some good deals, as long as you're patient. I read recently that Tonex was sort of re-releasing or releasing an upgrade to their amp modeler. And they've been hyping that as well. I got to try it. Since I do have the Tonex, I'm going to have to download it and see. I guess they're still trying to compete with the Neural, the Nano Cortex, the Kemper. Since it's the anniversary of the Tonex, they've released what they call it a game-changing upgrade to the platform with the addition of 8 new guitar effects. And the update is free. So I want to grab the update and see what it's all about. I'll probably do it right after the show. What I would really like to see is them upgrade the software for the thing. Just like it was a very clunky software. If the software was better, I think they would sell a lot more of these units. So yeah, it should be interesting. I'm always willing to give it another try and see it where, what's better, what they're doing. Yeah, I know. I understand, Vinny. They're adding the delay and chorus options on there as well, which is they should have had that from the beginning, but for whatever reason they decided not to. Hey, this is something funny I wanted to share with you guys. Something fun. Maybe I'll share. This is the last thing we'll talk about before we go here today. Recently, there was they often have Billboard rankings, and basically they had a Billboard ranking of the 100 most iconic guitars of all time. And that's quite a feat to think about 100 different guitars that are iconic. I think at the end of the day, I could list probably 4 or 5, which I consider to be iconic. Like if I had to ask you guys, name me 4 or 5 guitars that you think that you consider iconic. Top 5. What would you say? Just out of curiosity. Off the top of your head. Don't go doing a Google search or anything like that. Just off the top of your head. If I had to say what are the most iconic, it would be Eddie Van Halen, Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix. Who else? David Gilmour, I would say, and I don't know. I wouldn't even I was thinking Elvis Presley, but he's not really known to be a guitarist. So I would say, who else? I don't know. Stevie Ray Vaughan, maybe. I would say those would be my 5 picks off the top of my head.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
Siri's spying on me. Siri, I'm not talking to you. Go back to sleep. Funny, huh? They're always listening. Anyway. Yeah, Clapton. So let's see here. Gene says Willie Nelson, Greenie, Angus Young, Clapton, Trigger, Blackie, Tony Iommi, Hendrix, Gilmore, Clapton, Alvin Lee, and Stevie Ray. It's funny that you threw in Alvin in there, Stephen. Thomas says Blackmore. SB says Kurt Cobain's Jaguar, John Frusciante's Strat, Dave Gilmour's Black guitar. What else? I'm talking guitars, not guitar players. Gene says Rory Gallagher. I think the common ones pop up over and over again. The funny thing is that this Billboard Top 100 listed Eddie Van Halen's guitar as the third most iconic. Yeah, B.B. King. Yeah, Lucille, for sure. How about Chuck Berry's guitar? Can't forget Chuck. Right? Brian May's guitar. Yeah, it's well known. So the funny thing is, this is the order in which these guys ranked the top 100. Number 1, Jimi Hendrix. That always kind of pops up. Jimi Hendrix is always... I don't know why Jimi Hendrix is always considered the first. But it usually is. So his 1965 Fender Stratocaster, number 1. Number 2, Willie Nelson. His 1965 Martin, the N20, which is known as Trigger. Willie Nelson's guitar is iconic for sure, but whenever I think of guitarists, I usually don't think of Willie Nelson. But I agree, it's iconic. You see it, you know it's his, right? Number 3, Eddie Van Halen's homemade Frankenstrat, right? Frankenstein guitar. That's number 3. Number 4, B.B. King, Lucille. Number 5, Chuck Berry, his 1955 Gibson ES350, number 5. So it's funny, he's, after B.B. King, Chuck Berry. Who do you think is more popular? Chuck Berry or B.B. King? Be interesting to try and rate them. Rick says Frank Marino. Richie Blackmore's Strats, yeah. For me, Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page's guitar, just so you know, ended up being, this is the double neck guitar now, not his standard number 1. So his double neck guitar, 69 Gibson EDS 1275, 15th on the list, way down there, 15th. His Gibson Les Paul, which is his 1959-1960 Les Paul Standard, number 1, 17th. So he's way down there. For me, I mean, honestly, if it was me, because I'm a huge Jimmy Page fan, that would be number 1. That would be the guitar, the iconic guitar. And we're not even at Pearly Gates, Billy Gibbons guitar. Not even in the top 20. Imagine that. I gotta see. So Billy Gibbons guitar, Pearly Gates, comes in at 32. Could you imagine that, 32? So here's the list. I'll just go down the list. I won't go through all of the top 100, but just so if you guys are interested in knowing where it is. So it's Jimi Hendrix, number 1, Willie Nelson, number 2, Eddie Van Halen, number 3, B.B. King, number 4, Chuck Berry, number 5, Angus Young, 6th, is SG, David Gilmour's 1969 Fender Stratocaster, the black one, 7, Robert Johnson, remember him? His Gibson L1 is number 8. Number 9 is Sister Rosetta Tharpe, her 1961 white Les Paul. Who would have guessed that would have come in before Steve Ray Vaughan's number 1, which is 10th? And that would have come in before Peter Green or Gary Moore or Kirk Hammett's 1959 Gibson Les Paul Standard Greenie. That's 11. 11 in the list. Jeff Beck. We forgot about Jeff. Nobody even mentioned Jeff. 12th. So his 1954 Les Paul Oxblood guitar. That's 12th. Albert King. Remember Albert? He comes in at 13 with Lucy, the Flying V. It's an Erlewine Flying V. 14th is Brian May, the Red Special. 15th, Jimmy Page. 16th, Neil Young. 1953 Gibson Les Paul, which he calls Old Black. 17th is Jimmy Page's standard Gibson Les Paul number 1. 18th. So Django Reinhardt, remember him? His guitar comes in at 18th. George Harrison, 19th, is Rickenbacker, 1963. John Lennon's 1965 Epiphone Casino, 20th. Keith Richards, 1954 Fender Telecaster, comes in at 21. I could go on, and we have, after that there's Eric Clapton, Chet Atkins, there's Kurt Cobain, Duane Allman, there's Billy Gibbons, Malcolm Young, Bob Dylan, Johnny Winter / Steve Vai, Joni Mitchell, and the list goes on and on. And Jimi Hendrix does come up again in 47th place with his Fender Stratocaster Woodstock guitar. And the person that comes in very last, we have to kind of mention the last one, which is the 100th is Johnny Thunder's 1959 Les Paul Jr. TV model. So if you want to check it out, just Google the list. Interesting list. So there you have it, guys. I think we'll end it on that note. We'll talk about some more good, interesting news topics and new gear next Sunday. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please hit the like button on the way out. If you do have any comments, if you're, jumping in now or perhaps looking at this on the rerun and you have questions, just put your questions in. I still will answer any questions after the show is published. We always welcome the questions. If you want to support the channel, you can do that by subscribing or sending a super chat or a donation. But we appreciate you guys just tuning in on a regular basis. We'll be back next Sunday. If everything goes well and my renovations are not going to be overwhelming me, we'll be back next Sunday and we'll have some additional news. Please stay tuned for the reveal of this guitar, which is coming this week, because I think you're going to be surprised at what it is. Very interesting guitar, to say the least. Have a great week, guys. Have a very productive week. Hope you guys achieve a lot. And if you have any questions throughout your week, you know how to catch me on either YouTube, Instagram. You can even send me a message on Gmail, something like that. All right. Peace out, guys. Stay safe. Stay well. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a fun day. Take advantage of the rest of the Sunday and the rest of the warmish weather before things go sideways. And we'll talk again next week. Later, everybody. Have a good one.